I never thought I'd be the kind of person to cut off my own family. Growing up, we weren't perfect, but I believed we had each other's backs. That belief shattered the day I discovered what my parents really thought of me. My name is Tyler, and for the past 5 years, I've been the unofficial financial backbone of my family. It started small, covering a grocery bill here, helping with a utility payment there. But somewhere along the way, it became expected. Every month, like clockwork, I'd transfer money for their mortgage, pay their property taxes, fix whatever broke in their aging house. I told myself it was temporary, that things would get better once Dad's back healed from his work injury, and Mom could find something more stable than her part-time retail job. Meanwhile, my younger brother Eric lived in their basement, contributing nothing but dirty dishes and excuses. At 32, he'd never held a job for more than 3 months. His days consisted of gaming until 4 a.m. and sleeping until noon. When I'd visit, he'd barely look up from his screen to acknowledge me, even as I hauled in groceries I'd bought or tools to fix yet another household disaster. That particular Tuesday started like any other. I'd taken a half day off work to help Dad organize his home office, something he'd been putting off for months. The cluttered room was a maze of old paperwork, outdated electronics, and boxes that hadn't been opened since their last move. As I sorted through a filing cabinet, searching for tax documents Dad claimed he needed, my fingers brushed against a manila envelope tucked behind a row of folders. Estate planning documents was written across the front in my mother's careful handwriting. My stomach tightened. I knew I shouldn't look, but something compelled me to open it. Maybe it was the years of sacrifice, the missed vacations, the dates I'd canceled because Mom needed help with something urgent. Maybe I just needed to know I mattered. The will was dated just 6 months ago. Fresh. Recent. Deliberate. My hands trembled as I read through the legal language, searching for my name. There it was, in black and white. To our son Tyler, we leave our collection of family photos in your grandmother's cookbook. That was it. Photos and a cookbook. Everything else, the house I'd been paying for, the car I'd helped them buy, their savings, investments, even Mom's jewelry, everything went to Eric. My brother, who hadn't contributed a dime, who couldn't even be bothered to mow the lawn, was set to inherit everything. I must have stood there for 20 minutes, just staring at those pages. The room felt like it was spinning. 5 years of sacrificing my own financial security, turning down a promotion that would have required relocation because they needed me nearby, and this was what I meant to them? A few photos and a cookbook? The worst part was a handwritten note attached to the will. Mom's writing again. We know Tyler will be fine on his own. He's always been the independent one. Eric needs the security more than Tyler does. Independent. That's what they called it when I worked 2 jobs through college. Independent was their word for never asking for help, even when I was struggling. But Eric was just finding himself for the past decade. I heard Dad's footsteps coming up the stairs and quickly returned the envelope to its hiding spot. When he entered the room, I was bent over a different box, pretending to sort through old receipts. Find those tax papers yet? He asked, lowering himself carefully into his desk chair. Still looking, I managed, my voice surprisingly steady. No rush. Hey, while you're here, the kitchen faucet is leaking again. Think you could take a look? Of course, there was always something else. Another task, another bill, another problem only I could solve. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak more. The next few days were torture. I went through the motions at work, but my mind kept circling back to that will. Every text from my parents felt like salt in the wound. Mom asking if I could pick up Dad's prescription. Dad wondering if I could cover their car insurance this month, just until his disability check came through. I found myself scrolling through my bank statements, adding up everything I'd given them over the years. The number made me sick. $73,000. That was just the direct payments, not counting the repairs I'd done, the groceries, the gas money, the countless hours of labor. Thursday evening, I was at my apartment when Eric texted me. It was rare for him to reach out, usually only when he wanted something. Yo, can you grab me a new headset? Mine broke. The Astro A52 are on sale at Best Buy. The Astro A52, a $300 gaming headset from my brother who couldn't be bothered to get a job but would inherit everything my parents owned. I didn't respond. An hour later, Mom called. Tyler, honey, Eric mentioned he texted you about something he needs. You didn't answer him. I was busy, I said flatly. Well, could you pick it up tomorrow? You know how he gets when his gaming stuff breaks. He could get a job and buy it himself. There was a pause. Tyler, that's not very kind. You know Eric has anxiety about working. Anxiety. That's what they called his laziness now. Mom, I need to go. Wait, before you hang up, could you come by this weekend? The garage door is making that noise again, and your father can't climb the ladder to check the tracks. I'll think about it. I hung up before she could guilt me further. That night, I made a decision. If I was nothing more to them than a convenient ATM and handyman, if Eric was the one who truly mattered, then they could figure things out without me. Saturday came and I didn't show up. My phone buzzed constantly, calls and texts from both parents. I let them all go to voicemail. Tyler, where are you? Dad's waiting for you to look at the garage. Honey, are you sick? You always come on Saturdays. Tyler, this is very inconsiderate. We're worried. By evening, the tone changed. Tyler, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this behavior is unacceptable. Your father needed your help today. I finally texted back. I'm taking some time for myself. You'll need to find someone else to help with house repairs. The response was immediate. Mom called, and this time I answered. What do you mean find someone else? Tyler, you're our son. Family helps family. Funny how that works, I said. Family helps family, but only one way, right? What are you talking about? Nothing. I just realized I've been enabling Eric's lifestyle and your dependency on me for too long. It's time everyone learns to stand on their own feet. Enabling? Tyler, we're your parents, after everything we've done for you. What exactly have you done for me, Mom? In the last 5 years, what have you done besides take? The silence stretched out. Finally, she said, I don't know what's wrong with you, but when you come to your senses and apologize, we'll be here. She hung up on me. Apologize? I almost laughed. The next 2 weeks were liberating and painful in equal measure. I didn't visit, didn't send money, didn't respond to the increasingly frantic messages. My dad tried the tactical approach, sending emotionless texts about bills that were due. My mom went for emotional manipulation, talking about how disappointed grandma would be in me. Eric stayed silent until the internet got shut off for non-payment. Dude, WTF? Eric's text came through at 11 p.m. on a Thursday. The internet's off. I was in the middle of a ranked match. I didn't respond. Tyler, seriously, I need the internet. Can you just pay it this once? Still nothing from me. This is really messed up. You know I have an online tournament this weekend. Prize pool is $500. I almost responded to that one. He could enter tournaments but couldn't get a job, but I held strong. The next morning, my dad called my office. I had my assistant tell him I was in meetings all day. He called again after lunch. Then Mom tried. That evening, they showed up at my apartment. I saw them through the peephole, Dad leaning heavily on his cane, Mom clutching her purse like a weapon, and Eric slouching behind them in basketball shorts and a stained t-shirt, clearly dragged along against his will. The knocking was insistent. Tyler, we know you're in there. Your car is in the parking lot. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. What do you want? What do we want? Dad's face was red. How about an explanation for why you've abandoned your family? I haven't abandoned anyone. I've just stopped enabling. The property taxes are due, he said, cutting straight to the point. $3,000. We don't have it. Then you better figure it out. Mom pushed past him. Tyler, honey, please, I don't understand what happened. We've always been there for you. Have you? I interrupted. When was the last time you helped me with anything? When I was sick last year, who took care of me? When my car broke down, who did I call? Not you. Because every conversation, every interaction is about what I can do for you. Eric finally spoke up. Dude, it's just money. You make good money. Why are you being such a dick about it? Something in me snapped. Just money? I looked directly at Eric for the first time in weeks. Tell me, Eric, how much money have you contributed to this family? How many bills have you paid? How many repairs have you done? He shrugged. That's different. You know I have anxiety. Right, but not enough anxiety to prevent you from gaming 16 hours a day or entering tournaments. Tyler, Mom gasped. That's cruel. Your brother has challenges you don't understand. You're right. I don't understand how someone can live rent-free for a decade, contribute nothing, and still be the favored son. Favored? Dad scoffed. We don't have favorites. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. Really? Then why does your will leave everything to Eric? The silence was deafening. Mom's face went white. Dad's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Eric looked genuinely confused. You went through our private papers? Mom finally whispered. I found them by accident while looking for the tax documents Dad asked me to find, but I'm glad I did. At least now I know where I really stand. Tyler, it's not what you think, Dad started. It's exactly what I think. The will was crystal clear. Eric gets everything because he needs it more, because I'm so independent. Well, congratulations. You're right, I am independent. Independent enough to stop carrying all of you. Mom was crying now. We thought, you're successful. You have a good job. Eric struggles. Eric doesn't struggle. Eric chooses not to try. There's a difference. I turned to my brother. What's your plan when they're gone, Eric? When there's no one to cook your meals and pay for your toys? He shrugged again, but I caught something in his eyes. Fear, maybe. The reality starting to sink in. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to leave my apartment. You're going to figure out your financial situation without me. Eric's going to get a job or you're going to lose the house. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. Dad tried one more time. Tyler, if we lose the house, we'll have nowhere to go. Eric's about to inherit it all anyway, right? Let him figure it out. Consider it practice. I closed the door on them. Through the wood, I could hear Mom sobbing and Dad muttering angrily. Eric said something I couldn't make out, and then their footsteps retreated. That night, I did something I'd never done before. I went online to a forum. I sometimes browsed for family advice and typed out my story. All of it. The years of support, the discovered will, the confrontation. I needed to know if I was wrong, if I was the villain they were making me out to be. The responses poured in within hours. NTA, they made their choice clear in that will. Your brother is 32 and never had a job? Run, don't walk. The audacity of leaving everything to the child who contributes nothing. You did the right thing. But there were others too. They're still your parents. Don't you think you're being harsh? Maybe they thought Eric needed it more because he's clearly unable to care for himself. You're punishing them for trying to provide for their disabled son. Disabled. That word stuck with me. Eric wasn't disabled. He was enabled. There was a massive difference. Over the next few days, the situation escalated. Extended family started calling. Apparently, Mom had reached out to everyone with her version of events, that I'd become cruel and materialistic, abandoning them over money. My aunt called me selfish. My cousin said I should be ashamed. My grandmother left a voicemail saying she didn't raise me to be heartless. But I also got a call from my Uncle Tom, Dad's brother, who I hadn't heard from in years. Tyler, I heard what's happening. I want you to know, I watched this same dynamic play out for years. I tried to warn your parents about Eric, about what they were creating. You're not wrong to walk away. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I got a text from an unknown number. It was a screenshot of a social media post from Eric. Really struggling right now. Family turning their backs on me during hard times. If anyone can spare anything for groceries or bills, would be greatly appreciated. Attached was his payment app username. The comments were filled with sympathy and small donations. People who didn't know him, didn't know he'd never worked a day in his life, sending him money while he sat in his parents' basement. I wanted to rage. I wanted to comment with the truth. But I didn't. It wasn't my circus anymore. A week later, Mom texted, "The house is going into foreclosure proceedings. I hope you're happy." I responded for the first time in weeks. Eric can get a job. You can work full-time. Dad can apply for additional disability benefits. There are options that don't involve me. Those aren't realistic solutions, and you know it. They're only unrealistic because you refuse to hold Eric accountable for anything. She didn't respond. I found out through my Uncle Tom that they'd managed to scrape together the property taxes by selling Mom's car. Eric had apparently thrown a fit about potentially losing his gaming setup if they had to downsize. The fact that his mother no longer had transportation to her job didn't seem to concern him. 2 months passed. I focused on my life, my work, my friends. I started dating someone, something I'd put off for years because I was always on call for family emergencies. I took the promotion I'd previously turned down, even though it meant more travel. I was living for myself for the first time in years. Then came the email from Dad, not a text or call, but a formal email. "Tyler, I've been doing a lot of thinking. Your mother and I made mistakes. We see that now. Eric has agreed to start looking for work, and we're going to family counseling. Would you consider joining us for a session?" I stared at that email for 3 days before responding. "I'll consider it if Eric has a job first. Not looking for one, actually employed." Dad's response was quick. "That's not fair. You know how hard it is for him." "It's completely fair. This is my boundary. Respect it or don't, but I won't negotiate." The emails stopped. A month later, my phone rang at 2 a.m. It was Mom, hysterical. Dad had had a heart attack. He was in the hospital, stable but scared. "Could I please come?" I went. Not for them, but for my own peace of mind. I didn't want to wonder what if later. The hospital room was tense. Dad looked older, frailer. Mom clutched his hand like a lifeline. Eric was there, playing on his phone. "Tyler," Dad said weakly. "You came. How are you feeling?" "Been better." He attempted a smile. "Doctors say it was stress-related." I didn't take the bait. The implied guilt trip was obvious. "I'm glad you're stable," I said simply. "Tyler," Mom started, "we really need to talk about—" "No," I interrupted. "Dad needs rest. This isn't the time." I stayed for an hour, mostly in silence. As I was leaving, Eric followed me to the hallway. "This is your fault," he hissed. "Dad's heart attack. It's because of all the stress you've caused." I turned to face him fully. "Eric, Dad's heart attack is because he spent 65 years eating poorly, not exercising, and yes, stressing about things. But you know what's really stressful? Enabling a grown man who refuses to contribute anything while watching your house go into foreclosure. You could have prevented all of this. So could you. By getting a job. By being an adult. By taking responsibility for literally anything in your life. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You're scared. You're scared that if you try, you might fail, so you don't try at all, and you let everyone else carry you. But that's ending, Eric. Whether I'm involved or not, it's ending. Mom and Dad are getting older. They can't sustain this forever." For once, he had nothing to say. Dad recovered, and they managed to keep the house by taking out a reverse mortgage. Eric, surprisingly, did get a job, part-time at a gaming store. It wasn't much, but it was something. Mom increased her hours at work. 6 months after that hospital visit, Mom called me. Her voice was different, tired, but somehow clearer. "Tyler, I owe you an apology. A real one." I listened. "We failed you. We took advantage of your responsibility and success. We enabled Eric's behavior for so long that we couldn't see what we were doing to both of you." "What changed?" I asked. "Therapy. And watching Eric these past few months, he's 33 years old and just learned how to do laundry. We did that. We created this situation. And the will?" There was a pause. "We're having it rewritten. Everything split equally. It should have always been that way." "I don't want their money, Mom. I never did. I wanted to matter as much as Eric." "You matter more," she said quietly. "You always have. We worried about Eric more, and somewhere along the way, worry became favoritism. Care became enabling. We lost sight of fairness. We talked for another hour. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. I see them now, once a month. Sunday dinners where Eric actually helps cook, where Dad asks about my life instead of just listing things that need fixing, where Mom doesn't end every conversation with a request. Eric and I aren't close, may never be, but he's trying. He's up to 30 hours a week at his job, and he's even started paying rent to our parents. It's not much, but it's something. I still struggle with resentment. Years of being taken for granted don't just disappear. But I'm in therapy too, working through it, learning to set boundaries without guilt, learning that love doesn't mean sacrificing yourself for people who won't do the same for you. The family photos and cookbook I was supposed to inherit, I told them to keep those too. I'm building my own memories now, ones where I'm not just the ATM or the handyman, but a person who matters. Standing up to them was the hardest thing I've ever done, but choosing myself, that saved my life.